Hello everyone. My name is Elena Vargas and I want to share a story that happened to me. I am 30 years old and I never thought my own family would betray me like this. But here we are. I grew up with my parents and my younger sister Valeria Castillo. We were never particularly close as children, but I thought that was normal between sisters. Valeria always seemed envious of everything I had. My friends, my grades, even my clothes. She would throw terrible tantrums whenever I received attention, but my parents always said that was how little sisters behaved. After university I got a good job in marketing and worked extremely hard to buy my own apartment. It was not very big, just a 2-bedroom place, but it was mine. The mortgage was heavy, but I was incredibly proud of that small apartment. It was in a good neighborhood close to everything and much better than the tiny places I had been renting. My parents were still struggling financially. They had been renting a tiny studio on the outskirts of the city for years. Honestly, it was depressing. It had barely any natural light. The walls were paper thin and the neighborhood was quite dangerous. Every time I visited I felt terrible seeing how they lived. Things started to get strange when I began dating Sebastian. He was a charming guy the first met at work. Funny, intelligent and organized. We had been together for about 8 months when I noticed Valeria acting strangely around him. She would appear wherever we went, always dressed elegantly, laughing too loudly at his jokes. Valeria invented excuses to message him directly about family matters or to ask for help with unimportant things. She started showing up at his workplace during lunch, saying she was casually in the area. When I confronted her, she played innocent. "What is wrong? I cannot be nice to your boyfriend." "God, Elena, you are so paranoid." But I was not paranoid. I saw exactly what she was doing. Valeria had always wanted what I had, and now she wanted Sebastian. The worst part was that Sebastian seemed flattered by all the attention. He dismissed my concerns, saying Valeria was just being friendly and that I was exaggerating. I wanted to believe him, but deep down I knew better. Valeria was plotting something and Sebastian was too kind or too naive to see it. Everything reached a breaking point on an ordinary Tuesday. I was at work when I received a message from Valeria that froze my blood. "Hi, little sister. I just wanted you to know that Sebastian and I are together. Please do not try to interfere with our happiness." I stared at my phone for 5 minutes, reading the message over and over. I called Sebastian immediately, but he did not answer. Then another message arrived, this time from him. "It is true, I am with your sister now." I sat in the bathroom of my office and cried for an hour. Not only because Sebastian had left me, although that hurt deeply, but because my own sister had betrayed me. She had deliberately gone after the one person she knew mattered to me, and she had won. When I finally recovered enough to function, I started hearing the real story through mutual friends. Apparently Valeria had been pursuing Sebastian for months. She had learned his schedule, his favorite cafes, and where he went to the gym. She appeared casually at every place he went. The betrayal hurt me so much that I could no longer function in that city. Every corner reminded me of Sebastian, every restaurant we had visited together, every stupid cafe where Valeria had probably cornered him. I needed to get as far away as possible. Luckily my company had been trying to transfer me to their office in another province for months. The salary was better, the position was a promotion, and suddenly it sounded like exactly what I needed. I called my boss that same day and told him I would accept the transfer. 2 weeks later I packed my entire life and moved to the other side of the country. I found a small apartment to rent while I figured out my next steps. And honestly, it felt wonderful to be in a clean new place where nobody knew my story. My parents were shocked when I told them I was leaving. "But darling, what about Sebastian? Can you not fix it?" my mother asked. "Mom, Valeria stole my boyfriend. There is nothing to fix." My father was more understanding. "I do not approve of what Valeria did, Elena. That was not right. At least someone in my family had common sense." My mother kept trying to mediate, but my father seemed to understand that Valeria had crossed a line that could not be undone. The new city was incredible. Better weather, more opportunities, and nobody knew about my family drama. I threw myself into work and started making new friends. For the first time in months I felt like I could breathe again. But I still had that apartment in my old city with the mortgage hanging over me. At first I thought about selling it and buying something in my new city. The market was good and I would probably break even or make a small profit. Then I thought about my parents, still trapped in that horrible studio. They had been nothing but supportive during the whole situation with Valeria, and they were getting older. Maybe I could help them and solve my apartment problem at the same time. So I called them with a proposal. Look, I plan to stay here long term. Why do not you move into my apartment? You can have it all to yourselves and finally leave that tiny studio. My mother started crying. Elena, darling, we could not. It is perfect for everyone. You will be close to your jobs and in a good neighborhood. I will keep paying the mortgage and taxes and you only cover the utilities. Think of it as helping each other. They accepted immediately and honestly it felt good to do something nice for them. They had always struggled financially and this was my chance to help them live in a decent place for the first time in years. Within a month they had moved into my apartment and I felt I had made the right decision. My plan was simple: pay off the mortgage as quickly as possible while building savings and then eventually buy a place in my new city. Everyone was winning. 6 months passed in my new city and I was finally starting to feel like myself again. Work was going great. I had made some solid friends and best of all I barely thought about Valeria and Sebastian anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. I was scrolling through social media one afternoon checking updates mindlessly when I saw that my cousin had liked a photo of Valeria. I had not looked at Valeria's page since I moved. Honestly, I had forgotten I still followed her, but curiosity got the better of me and I clicked on the notification. What I saw made my stomach drop. It was a photo of Valeria in what was clearly my apartment, my kitchen with my granite countertops and the backsplash I had chosen myself. She was posing with an elegant coffee setup looking super domestic and happy, but the caption was what really hit me. Many thanks to my parents for giving me this apartment. Finally I have my own place with my incredible fiancé. Housewarming party coming soon. I cannot wait to celebrate with everyone. I read the message 3 times before it really sank in. What did she mean by her parents giving her my apartment? My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her recent posts. There were many photos of her and Sebastian in my apartment acting like they owned it. Photos of them cooking in my kitchen, watching television on my sofa, even sleeping in what used to be my bedroom. Then I found the posts that turned my stomach. Photos of Valeria, Sebastian and my parents having a great time together like one big happy family. There was my father barbecuing in the backyard of my apartment building while Valeria and Sebastian laughed in the background. Another photo showed the 4 of them at some restaurant with the caption "Family dinner with my wonderful parents." One photo really pierced my soul. It was from what looked like a weekend getaway to the mountains. Valeria had captioned it, "Very grateful that my parents promised their support in any situation. Family is everything." I kept scrolling looking for any sign that my parents actually lived in my apartment too. But all the photos showed Valeria and Sebastian there alone or with my parents visiting as guests. In one photo I could even see Valeria's clothes hanging in my closet. Then I went to my mother's Facebook page and that is when I found the real blow. She had posted a photo of her and my father in what was clearly another rental, a small rundown place that looked even worse than their old studio. The post was from only 2 weeks ago. So let us make this clear. I had given my parents a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment to help them escape their housing situation. And instead of living there they had moved Valeria and her new fiancé in and gone back to living in a hole. I was shaking with rage, but I needed to be smart. I kept looking through Valeria's posts and then I saw it. A comment from my cousin asking about the housewarming party. Valeria had replied, "This Saturday at 7. I cannot wait to show everyone our new home." I checked the calendar. That Saturday was in 4 days. I had plenty of vacation time accumulated and suddenly I had the perfect plan. I called my boss the next morning and said, "I need to take a week off for a family emergency." Then I booked the most expensive last-minute flight I had ever bought. But you know what? It was worth every penny. I also grabbed all my important documents, the deed to the apartment, the mortgage papers, everything that proved I owned the place. I did not tell anyone I was coming, not my parents, not Valeria, nobody. I wanted it to be a total surprise. The flight felt endless. I kept imagining Valeria's face when I showed up at her little housewarming party. She thought she had won, that she had gotten away with stealing my boyfriend and now my apartment too. But she was about to learn that actions have consequences. I landed on Friday night and got a hotel room near my old neighborhood. I spent the night reviewing all my papers, making sure I had everything necessary to prove the apartment was mine. I also researched tenant rights and eviction procedures in case things got ugly. On Saturday afternoon I put on my best outfit, not because I wanted to look good for the party, but because I wanted to look like the successful, organized woman I had become. Then I called an Uber to my own apartment. During the ride my heart was beating so hard I thought it would explode. Part of me was nervous about the confrontation, but mostly I was angry. These people had taken advantage of my kindness and generosity and they were about to discover that had been a mistake. When I arrived at my building, I could hear music and voices coming from my apartment. There were cars parked all along the street. Valeria had really gone all out for this housewarming party in my home. I took a deep breath. I approached the door of my own apartment and knocked. After a minute, the door opened and there was Valeria, looking absolutely stunning in a designer dress I had never seen before. For a second she stared at me as if she had seen a ghost. Then her face went white and she whispered, "What the hell are you doing here?" "Hello to you too, sister. Nice party you were throwing in my apartment." I could hear the music stopping inside and suddenly there were voices asking who was at the door. Valeria tried to close the door, but I put my foot in the threshold. "We need to talk, Valeria. You were not invited to this party, Elena. You need to leave right now." I pushed past Valeria and entered my own apartment. And the scene that greeted me was surreal. There must have been at least 20 people there, relatives I had not seen in years, some of Valeria's friends, and even some people I did not recognize at all. They were all standing with drinks, admiring what Valeria called her new home. The apartment looked completely different. They had repainted the walls, moved the furniture, and hung photos of Valeria and Sebastian everywhere. It was as if they had tried to erase any trace that I had ever lived there. "Elena," my mother's voice broke the sudden silence. She was standing near the kitchen with my father. Both looked like deer caught in headlights. "What are you doing here?" "I am here because this is my apartment and apparently no one thought to tell me that my sister was throwing a housewarming party in it." Valeria stepped forward, trying to regain control of the situation. "You were not invited, Elena. This is my party in my apartment and I want you to leave right now." That caused a reaction in some of the relatives. I could see looks of confusion and whispered conversations starting across the room. Good. Let them wonder what was happening. "Your apartment?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Valeria, this has never been your apartment. This is my apartment with my name on the deed and my name on the mortgage that I pay every month." "Elena, please," my mother hurried over, looking panicked. "You are making a scene. Just listen to Valeria and leave." "It is fine. We gave it to her and Sebastian." I looked at my mother. "Mom, you did not give anything to anyone. This is not your apartment to give away. I allowed you and Dad to live here as a favor, not as owners." "But darling, you said we could have it," my father intervened. Though he looked less sure than my mother. "You gave us the keys and everything. I gave you the keys so you could live here, not so you could pass it to Valeria. There is a big difference between allowing someone to live somewhere and gifting them a property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars." By then all the party guests were staring openly. Some of them were starting to feel uncomfortable and I noticed some people quietly picking up their coats. Valeria's face was turning red. "Elena, you are ruining my party. Mom and Dad decided to give me this apartment because you abandoned it anyway. You do not even live in this state anymore." "I did not abandon anything. I moved for work and allowed our parents to live here out of kindness. And now I find out that instead you and your fiancé have moved in." I looked around the room. "Yes, that is correct, everyone. Valeria is engaged to my ex-boyfriend, the one she stole from me 6 months ago." More uncomfortable shifting from the guests. A couple of my aunts were looking at Valeria seriously. "I know, Elena." "Stop," said my mother, her voice becoming shrill. "We made a decision as a family. You have a good job. You can afford another place. Valeria needed a place to live with Sebastian. A decision as a family? When exactly was I included in this family decision about my own property?" "We tried to call you," my father started. I interrupted him. "When? Show me a message, a voicemail, an email where you asked if Valeria could live in my apartment." The room fell silent. My mother and father looked at each other and I could see they knew they had been caught. "We have your messages," my mother said desperately. "You told us we could have this place. You said it was ours now." "Really? Show everyone those messages. Show them where I used the word give or yours or anything like that." My mother fumbled with her phone, clearly to buy time. "You cannot show them because they do not exist," I continued. "What you have are messages where I said you could live here. Living somewhere and owning it are completely different things." Sebastian had been standing in a corner the whole time, looking like he wanted to disappear. I decided it was time to address him directly. "And you, Sebastian, does this seem okay to you? Seriously, you are living in your ex-girlfriend's apartment. That does not seem strange to you at all?" He opened his mouth but nothing came out. Valeria rushed to defend him. "Sebastian has every right to be here. This is our home now." "No, Valeria, it is not. And you know what the really disgusting part is? I was trying to help Mom and Dad.